Welcome, everybody. I'm Neil Cavuto, and it is good to be back. And my special thanks to friends and colleagues Colin McShane and Cheryl Casoni and David Asman for having my back when I was out. Great job, guys. Now to our top story tonight. A case of Burger King trying to have its donuts and eat them, too, because BK insisted never, ever, ever even thought about setting up shop north of the border just because it bought Canadian coffee and donuts chain Tim Hortons. Burger King and Tim Hortons will continue operating as independent brands just under common ownership. But understand the distinction here. A big chunk of that brand, the Hortons part, will still enjoy paying taxes at Canada's much lower tax rate, which means BK really will have its tax advantages baked into the merger. And doesn't Warren Buffett know it? He, too, insists that his Berkshire Hathaway stake in the company will pay all appropriate U.S. investment and related taxes in this combined company. But is the sage still playing us for a stooge? Investing in a deal where the Hortons part of the transaction will still enjoy a much lower tax bill than would otherwise be the case if the whole combined entity were considered based in Miami, Florida, as Burger King separately is now. Now, some have told me that this tax inversion is really a less obnoxious version of this tax inversion. But you would still think that Buffett, a man who has bemoaned paying a lower tax rate than his secretary, would stand clear of any deal where this even becomes an issue. It is weird, because when Mitt Romney was doing that exact same thing back in his Bain Capital days, he was Satan. The sage remains a saint. Not fair, not balanced, not right. How is it Buffett wrings out savings, as they say, from companies he targets, yet Mitt Romney's a ruthless cost cutter when he does the exact same thing at companies that he targets? Both end up creating jobs and opportunities for those companies and workers, but Romney's pathetic. Buffett gets a pass. None of this makes Buffett any less brilliant. Only the media's hypocrisy a lot more obvious. Just my thoughts. Use hashtag Cavuto to tell me your thoughts. Before we get to our All-Stars, I might point this out. This morning I wrote for a special column on this subject and using Canada as a ploy to avoid taxes. Within hours of its writing, the statement out of BK that no, we're still going to pay the U.S. rate. So I think I single-handedly prompted this deal. Enough of my gigantic ego. Now back to this gigantic segment with Hadley Heath Manning, Jonas Max Ferris, and last but not least, Sherry Jacobus. Sherry, what do you think?
I think you took the words right out of my mouth. I mean, everything I was going to say, you said, and we've been watching this throughout the day. I knew I was going to be coming on here, and we saw this story change. So I don't think it's your ego. I think you were just right. I think you did have an impact. And I think the others that were questioning, it's like all of a sudden this doesn't look quite like it did a few hours ago, did it?
All right, but they are still paying two different rates here, if you think about it. The large chunk of this combined entity, Tim Hortons, north of the border, now that's perfectly legal, too.
Sure.
They get to have both. The best of both worlds, right?
Right, and you don't hear Mr. Buffett coming out here talking about it. I mean, this had to be kind of, you had to pull it out of them, others had to pull it out of him, but he's not exactly speaking out. So he gets to kind of have his cake and eat it too, doesn't he?
Nor donuts, says the
okay, well, he gets to have
But
his
we
donuts.
find the holes in the story now.
Yeah.
I'm done with that.
Yeah, he gets to have it both ways, but he didn't really want anybody to know about it, but you knew about it, other people knew about it, so the story keeps kind of changing.
Well, you know, Hadley, what's kind of interesting in this is obviously not all politicians are liking this. Dick Durbin in Illinois saying, you know, wait a minute. So they're going to give some pause to this. Where is this going?
Well, whether or not Warren Buffett wanted to thrust himself back into a U.S. tax policy debate, he sort of has by participating in this deal. So it should be an opportunity, Neil, to have a conversation about America's corporate tax rate, which still is the highest in the world at about 40%. Canada's corporate tax rate, 26%. So it's not a surprise that Tim Hortons wants to stay in Canada. They're a Canadian brand. But it also should ask us, you know, whether or not other U.S. corporations would have incentives to move overseas, or whether or not new corporations incentives to incorporate in the United States, where we have a lot to offer in terms of stability and a great justice system, but the tax rate is just very detrimental to corporations who have to pay the full rate.
You know, Jonas, I'm one to sort of look sinisterly, read between the lines, and BK saying that it has no intention right now to leave the United States, and I'm wondering, well, does that mean down the road it would?
They could be buying some time. There was a lot of hostility by Burger King fans on the website about it looks like they're being a tax cheat. How much of this deal...
I thought they were more upset about freedom fries.
How much of this deal... Look, it's a king. I mean, the kingdoms don't pay taxes. That's the whole idea.
By the way, their mascot, or whatever you call it, that's the scariest mascot known to man.
They don't want them in Canada.
Creepy.
If they acquired this Canadian company and made it a U.S. company, then our higher tax rate, which applies to foreign, lower, that we pad up taxes on profits you earn abroad. They're not going to do that in Canada. If that was the deal, the stocks would be down, not up this week. As for Warren Buffett, look, I like Warren Buffett. He's a great investor. He's like Apple. He gets a lot of slack from the liberals for a lot of reasons. If you look at his business, it doesn't make any sense because full liberal policies would really destroy his business. He's moving coal around. He's serving up Dairy Queen. He's got the carbon tax, higher capital gains.
And by the way, he's a special carve-out in this deal to compensate him.
And by the way,
he
could pay a higher tax. If he paid himself a few $1 million salary, the stock wouldn't do as well. He'd have less capital gains, more income that would be taxed at a higher rate than a secretary. He's choosing not to do that.
Pay your secretary more then, if that's the problem.
But you know what, from a political standpoint, because that's what I do, I'm a political consultant, he can no longer be the spokesmodel for, the tax issue for the Democrats. He's kind of hurt himself on that. He's now.
But has he? I mean, he can kind of claim, well, look, I'm paying, and that is to Berkshire Hathaway, the established rate, all right, for U.S. taxes on this deal, even though he is investing in a deal that will have a two-tier tax structure that favors the company part of that structure, right? I mean, he's still getting it.
He's got to be a purist on this. He was so out front.
Exactly.
He made such a deal about it personally and tried to...
He should avoid it like the plague.
And he was this great martyr, and he was going to tell all the other wealthy people what they should do, and now it's like, hey, it's not that easy, is it?
What do you think of that, Adley, that he looks kind of hypocritical here?
He does. And, there's two things going on here. You can talk about the corporate tax rate. You can talk about the rates that are different in America and other countries. But you also have to look at, within the United States, some of the biggest drivers of job creation, some of the biggest drivers of our economy are small businesses. Many small businesses file their profits through the individual income tax code. And that's the individual income tax that Warren Buffett says should be higher for high earners, or at least he wants to tax more interest income as well. So he's sort of speaking out of both sides of his mouth, or at least his actions don't line up with his words. So I would hope for more consistency to see that taxing something gives you less of it. We want more growth. We want more business in the United States, so we shouldn't tax business or income.
All right, but no one ever pays at the market or the headline rate, right, Jonathan? So the argument is that few companies in the United States pay at that close to 40%
and Warren Buffett has said that repeatedly, that our corporate tax rate effectively for most companies, big companies like G, is a lot lower than the official rate. However,
well, it
is
depends
still
on
higher.
What companies you're looking at.
Yes.
But
and it is still a lot higher than companies in Canada because their government doesn't pad up the taxes when you earn money abroad.
Would they have even looked at this deal if Canada had a prohibitively higher tax rate?
If the deal was to raise the tax rate of the Tim Hortons chain, I don't think everybody would be as jazzed about it. Would the terms of Buffett is just financing this deal. I don't know what the terms are. Would he want more? Would it be more risky, the loan, perhaps, for the financing of it? I don't think people would have done it if that was the case. Whether Burger King's going to avoid taxes, their entity, at this point, they seem to be backing off.
Do you think the Canadians will insist that they get rid of that stupid mascot?
The scary
mascot. Do we have a picture of that? I don't know. I would not eat at a place where this is the mascot. I'm just saying.
You're supposed to hate royalty.
Yeah. I don't know. Look at the outfit, for God's sake. All right. When we come back, $2 million a day, $2 billion in assets, and you wonder why.